Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Young Investigators Research Forum. My name is Jonathan Fritz. I'm Program Director in Cognitive Neuroscience at NSF, and I want to tell you today about funding for sleep research at NSF. There are 8 directorates, and all but geosciences do fund this kind of work on sleep. I just want to indicate I have no conflict of interest for this talk. So here's an overview of the National Science Foundation. There are 8 directorates: biological sciences, the Directorate for Education and Human Resources, which has now been renamed EDU, geosciences, the directorate that I'm in, which is Social, Behavioral, and Economic Sciences, the Directorate for Computer and Information Science and Engineering, SCIES, engineering, mathematical and physical sciences, and a new directorate that was just set up this last year called Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. And this just shows on the right-hand side the relative allocation of funds for these different directorates. Now, as you all know, sleep science is a very interdisciplinary field. And for studies of human sleep, there's a lot of interaction with different programs at NSF and sometimes co-funding, not only within my program, but also across programs. So cognitive neuroscience does study neurobiology of sleep states and also learning and consolidation during sleep. Perception, action, and cognition, another program within SBE, funds studies on lucid dreaming and perception during sleep states. But within SBE, there are also a number of other programs. For example, social psychology studies the effect of sleep or sleep deprivation on social interactions. Developmental sciences looks at sleep patterns during brain development and the effects of those patterns on brain function and behavior. Human networks and data science examines the brain networks that are activated during sleep, during different sleep states. And then going to a different directorate, EDU, they're interested in STEM education. So they're looking at and have funded research on the impact of sleep loss on creativity and learning and education. The TIPS is this new directorate, and it has an interesting program called SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research. And this is an exciting program that encourages people to go out into the marketplace and develop devices that could monitor and improve sleep. Now, in addition to studying sleep in humans, we also at NSF have been funding studies of sleep in animals. There are a number of programs that are involved, and there's some cross-directorate programs that look at computational models of sleep, the so-called CRCNS program, studies that look at sleep in the context of integrating behavior, cognition, neuroscience computation, the NCS program. And then the biology directorate has a number of programs in sleep that they, number of awards they've given to study sleep in animal models, looking at brain evolution, the evolution of sleep and dreaming, and different types of sleep in different animals. The MPS, Math and Physical Sciences Directorate, looks at the theoretical analysis of sleep rhythms, and computer science has started exploring a kind of interesting, very new area, which is AI and sleep, artificial intelligence and sleep. So just jumping back to my directorate, SBE, I just want to emphasize there are at least 6 programs here that have funded sleep research: developmental sciences, perception, action, cognition, my program, cognitive neuroscience, but also social psychology, human networks and data science, and science of learning, augmented intelligence. Now, the Cog Neuro program, I co-direct with Dwight Kravitz. The key thing that we're looking for is really innovative transformational proposals. We want to try to understand something about the neural mechanisms of human cognition. So we fund work on attention, learning memory, decision-making, language, social cognition and emotion, and also sleep. We get about 120, 150 proposals a year. out of which about 10 to 15% are funded. Because a lot of our studies involve ECOG or neuroimaging with PET or with FNIRS or with fMRI, it's expensive, and awards are usually in the range of about 500 to K to 1 million. As I mentioned, the program co-reviews and co-funds proposals with other programs, and there are 2 submission cycles per year in late July, early August, and also in early February. For the Perception Action Cognition program, the 2 directors are Betty Tuller and Simon Fisher-Brown, and it supports theoretically motivated research aimed at increasing understanding of human perception, action, cognition, and sleep and their interactions. The actual size of the awards are a little bit less because they don't usually do any neuroimaging, but they're in the order of $350,000 to $700,000 for the standard awards. There are also career awards, and I'll get to this in more detail in a second. And these are 5-year awards, which are for young investigators. Now, you can sometimes get bigger awards if you are co-funding with other NSF programs or with EPSCoR if you're from an EPSCoR state. Just to turn to all the different kinds of grants, and sleep funding has been possible on all these different grants, so you should familiarize yourself with the options here. If you're a grad student, well, guess what? There's graduate research fellowships in the GFRP program. And you'd probably apply through the psychology program within GFRP. That's once a year. The deadline is October 17th this year, and it provides 3 years of financial support at $37K with an annual stipend of $37K. If you're a postdoc, there's another program that NSF runs called SPRF. It's a 2-year fellowship for $80K per year with $65K stipend and a $15K allowance. This also has a deadline in the fall of November 1st. Then there's standard grants. The standard grants can be usually 2 to 3 years of support up to about $1 million. And the deadlines vary slightly with one program. So for example, PAC and CogNeuro both have 2 deadlines per year. They're roughly around August and roughly around early February. But check the websites to be sure that you get your proposal in on time. Career grants, as I said, can provide 5 years of support up to $1 million. The deadline is July 26, and it's for young faculty at the assistant professor level before receiving tenure. You're allowed 3 applications only. Then there's conference grants if you want to run a conference, and that can be up to 100K. There's no deadline. You could apply any time of year. RUI grants are research and undergrad institutions. So these are institutions that don't have a PhD program, but are active in undergraduate research. And this would go under a standard grant option, but with special consideration for the RUI. The REU is research experiences for undergrads, and this supports intensive research by undergrads in any NSF-funded area of research. So this would go to a PI who engages a cohort, a group of usually 8 to 10 students in research projects related to a theme. And this is very exciting. It can be really a lot of fun for the undergrads and be really helpful for the PI as well, and a great teaching opportunity and learning opportunity. The deadline for that is September 6th. And finally, there's something called EAGER grants, early concept grants for exploratory research. This is for if you have a crazy but exciting idea, high risk, high payoff. You can submit it. You can get up to $300,000, and it lasts for a couple of years. So those are the different kinds of grants you could pursue. I just want to say a few words about the most recent NSF sleep research grants that have been awarded. SBE has awarded 9 grants, Bio Directorate 9 grants, TIP 7 grants, and then the other directorates have also funded a few. And what I want to do is just go through from the top 3 directorates kinds of studies that have been funded. So let's take a look at my directorate, SBE. And I'm just going to give you a list of a few of these awards. The role of sleep in infant problem solving. This was also funded by developmental, and early sleep disruption effects on brain development and autistic behavior, also a developmental study. Individual differences in habitual sleep quality and episodic memory. There's a very strong link between sleep and memory in terms of consolidation. And so you see there's another couple awards: sleep and selective emotional memory, consolidation in adulthood, and neurodynamics of sleep-mediated learning. This one is in brain-computer interface applications where they're trying to enhance learning by teaching before sleep and making sure that the people who have the BCI implants are able to use the sleep period to help consolidate the things that they've learned during the day. There's also a really interesting set of studies looking at learning and creative problem solving in relation to dreaming and in relation to lucid dreaming. Then the last two that I want to mention are the effects of insufficient sleep on dietary choices, something that a lot of us face if you don't get enough sleep, if you're on a shift, if you're an adolescent, if you're in college and trying to study really hard for an exam, and what happens to the effects on your judgment and your dietary choices. Finally, the last one, an embodied cognitive assistant to enhance cognitive performance, specifically in shift workers who are going back and forth with different times of day that they're sleeping and can really throw off their circadian cycle. So that's a feel for the kind of variety of topics that we fund from SBE. Within bio, these are all studies with animals and a whole variety of animals, mostly rodents, but also studies of stress-induced sleep in nematodes, the tiny little worms in the soil. Dissection of sleep and behavioral arousal in fruit flies, Drosophila. Sleep plasticity in Mexican cave fish. These are fish that live in caves and have no exposure to light. So it's not light-driven circadian rhythms, but internal circadian rhythms. And then, in these rodent studies, an examination of the control of sleep and wakefulness within the hypothalamus and also within the hippocampus, setting up oscillations that are important in sleep. And finally, sex differences in metabolic circadian rhythms that have been shown to exist in mice. So again, I wanted to give you a flavor of the different kinds of awards that you can receive from the Biodirectorate. And finally, I want to turn to the TIPS Directorate. Now, as I mentioned, they have a program called SBIR, and this is really an opportunity for academics to turn their discoveries into products and really innovate and help the broader society and impact by providing devices that can assist with sleep. So here's a few that have been funded from SBIR. This is the first one: improved memory during sleep at home with wearable EEG devices that stimulate slow brain oscillations that are believed to be important for sleep. Form factor earbuds for monitoring of sleep at night. So rather than wearing an EEG device on your head with multiple leads, just putting in a couple of earbuds to monitor your sleep. Neuromodulation device to promote healthy sleep. A study focusing, or actually a program that's going to market for restoring natural sleep in adolescents by advancing their circadian clock. A non-contact smart monitor that's in the room, listening to the sounds of sleep for sleep order diagnosis and intervention. A single wearable patch for reliable and accurate home monitoring of sleep apnea. And then for infants, an in-home technology for making sure that the infants are thermoregulated properly during sleep. So again, what I wanted to just share with you is that, as you take a look at these proposals that have been funded both in TIPS, in biology, and in SBE, you see really a wide range of human studies, animal studies, and studies that are translational. That's pretty much it for now, but feel free to contact me. Remember, my email is at the very beginning of the slideshow, and I'd be happy to answer more questions in detail or set up a Zoom with you. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.